She made more money than most CEOs, commanded more respect than Supreme Court justices, and ruled daytime television for a quarter of a century. Judge Judy wasn't just a TV show, it was a cultural phenomenon that turned Judith Sheindlin into one of the most powerful women in entertainment. But here's what nobody talks about. At 82, the woman who could silence anyone with a single glare now sits in mansions so quiet you can hear the emptiness echo through the halls. The same iron will that built her empire may have destroyed the relationships that mattered most, and the decisions she made in pursuit of fame left scars that millions of dollars can't heal. What really happened to the judge who once had America hanging on her every word? And why does the life she's living now look nothing like the success story we all believed? The truth is more heartbreaking than you'd ever imagine. Judith Susan Blum wasn't born into power. She grew up in Brooklyn in 1942, the daughter of a dentist father she adored and a practical, no-nonsense mother who taught her that words were cheap and actions told the real story. That lesson would shape everything that came after. But before the fame, before the millions, before America even knew her name, Judy was just another young lawyer trying to find her place in a world that didn't want women in courtrooms. After passing the New York bar in 1965, she landed what looked like a solid job as a corporate lawyer for a cosmetics company. She was 23, ambitious, and ready to prove herself. But within 2 years, she realized something that would haunt her for decades. She hated every minute of it. The work felt meaningless, the days dragged on, and deep down, she knew this wasn't what she was meant to do. So she made a choice that shocked everyone around her. She quit, just walked away from a stable career to stay home with her 2 young children, Jamie and Adam. For 5 years, she tried to convince herself that being a full-time mother was enough, but it wasn't. The restlessness gnawed at her. By 1972, when a friend mentioned an opening for a prosecutor in New York's family court system, Judy didn't hesitate. She jumped back in, and this time, everything clicked. Family court was raw, emotional, and brutal. Cases involving abuse, neglect, custody battles, the kind of work that broke most people. But Judy thrived. She wasn't there to make friends or sugarcoat reality. She was there to cut through the lies and deliver justice, fast and final. Her reputation grew quickly. By 1982, New York Mayor Ed Koch noticed her work and appointed her as a criminal court judge. 4 years later, she was promoted again to supervising judge of Manhattan's family court. She had a style nobody could ignore, sharp, direct, and completely unfiltered. Some called her harsh, others called her brilliant. But everyone agreed on one thing: you did not lie to Judge Judy Sheindlin. Then came 1993, and everything changed. A journalist from the Los Angeles Times wrote an article about this firecracker judge in New York who was shaking up the system. The story caught fire. Producers at 60 Minutes saw it and invited her on the show. When America watched that segment, they couldn't look away. Here was a woman who didn't play games, didn't waste time, and didn't care if you liked her or not. She was real in a way television had never seen before. In 1996, television producers approached her with an idea: a courtroom reality show featuring real cases and real rulings. On September 16th of that year, Judge Judy premiered. Within weeks, it was pulling in millions of viewers. Within months, it was a cultural phenomenon. At its peak, the show drew 9 to 10 million people every single day, sometimes even beating Oprah in the ratings. Judy became more than a judge. She became an icon. Her catchphrases, her glare, her entire presence became embedded in American culture. And the money? It was staggering. By 2005, she was making $25 million a year. By 2008, that jumped to $45 million. And by 2017, she was earning $147 million annually, making her the highest-paid person on television. Not just in daytime, on all of television. She filmed only 52 days a year, which meant she was making close to $900,000 per day of work. But here's what nobody saw coming. While Judy was building an empire on screen, the foundation of her personal life was quietly crumbling beneath her feet, and the cracks were about to become impossible to ignore. Success in public doesn't guarantee happiness in private. And for Judy Sheindlin, the higher she climbed, the more she lost along the way. Her first marriage should have been a clue about what was coming. In 1964, fresh out of school, she married Ronald Levy, a fellow attorney who seemed like the perfect match. They had 2 children together, built what looked like a stable life. But beneath the surface, something was deeply wrong. Ronald never took her career seriously. To him, her work was a hobby, something she did to keep herself busy. That might have been acceptable in another era, but not to Judy. She had fought too hard to be dismissed like that. The resentment built slowly, year after year, until the marriage finally collapsed in 1976, after 12 years together. She was suddenly a single mother, raising Jamie and Adam on her own while trying to build a legal career in a system designed to keep women out. The next year, she met Jerry Sheindlin, a defense attorney with a sharp mind and a personality that could match hers blow for blow. The chemistry was instant. They married in 1977 and seemed perfect for each other. Both were tough, both understood the law, both thrived under pressure. But even the strongest connections can break under the right kind of stress. In 1990, Judy's father died. Murray Bloom was the man she called the greatest thing since sliced bread, her hero, her anchor. When he passed, Judy crumbled. She needed Jerry to step up, to be there for her in a way he'd never had to before. But Jerry didn't know how to give her what she needed. He was a man who lived on logic and structure, and grief doesn't follow either of those rules. Frustrated and overwhelmed, Judy gave him an ultimatum. When Jerry responded with a challenge instead of compassion, she filed for divorce the very next day. The split shocked everyone. But here's the thing about Judy. She doesn't do anything without conviction. If she files for divorce, she means it. Except this time, she was wrong. Within a year, they both realized the divorce was a mistake. They missed each other. They needed each other. In 1991, they remarried, and this time, it stuck. They've been together ever since, building a blended family of 5 children, 3 from Jerry's previous marriage, Gregory, Jonathan, and Nicole, and Judy's too. But being married didn't solve everything. In fact, as Judge Judy exploded in popularity, Judy faced a problem that fame couldn't fix. She was never home. The endless filming schedule, the constant pressure to maintain her image, the relentless pace of production meant she missed nearly everything that mattered. School plays, family dinners, birthdays, the small moments that build a childhood. Years later, she would admit that her greatest regret was not being there enough for her children. She carried that guilt everywhere, a weight that no amount of success could lift. One of her close friends revealed that Judy constantly blamed herself, always wondering if she'd done enough, always knowing the answer was no. Then, in 2011, something happened that forced her to confront her own mortality. During a live taping, Judy suddenly started slurring her words. Her face went blank. The sharp, quick woman America knew vanished in an instant. Production stopped. Paramedics rushed in. She was taken to the hospital where doctors delivered the diagnosis. She'd suffered a mini-stroke, a transient ischemic attack that could have been much worse. She recovered quickly, but the scare changed something. She started working out daily, changed her diet, began taking medication to prevent another stroke. But she didn't slow down. If anything, she pushed harder, as if trying to outrun the reality that time was catching up. Today, her 5 children are grown with lives of their own. Family gatherings are rare. The distance between them isn't just physical, it's emotional, built from years of absence that can't be undone. Even bringing her granddaughter Sarah Rose onto Judy Justice as a law clerk felt like an attempt to reclaim something she'd lost, a way to pass on a legacy to someone who might actually remember her presence. But the damage was done. And as Judy's fame grew, so did the list of people who felt left behind, including the one person who had stood by her side for over 2 decades, and the controversies that would make people question everything they thought they knew about her. For years, Judge Judy was untouchable. Millions trusted her. Networks paid her a fortune. She seemed immune to the kind of scandals that destroyed other careers. But every empire has cracks, and Judy's were about to become impossible to ignore. The first real blow came from inside her own production. Former staff members started speaking out, and what they described was disturbing. They painted a picture of a workplace filled with harassment, discrimination, and fear. Much of the criticism centered on Randy Douthat, the show's longtime executive producer. Accusations against him included inappropriate behavior, verbal abuse, and creating an environment where speaking up meant losing your job. One producer, Courtney Bullock, filed a lawsuit claiming she'd been harassed and then pushed out after complaining. Other former employees backed up her story, adding that there was a troubling pattern behind the scenes. Some even alleged that racial bias influenced which cases made it to air, with instructions to avoid booking too many black litigants in a single episode. These weren't just whispers. Court documents and media reports laid it all out. And the question everyone asked was, how much did Judy know? She claimed she had no knowledge of any misconduct, defended her team publicly, and continued to support Douthat. But for someone who built a career on accountability, her response felt hollow to critics. They argued that as the face of the show, she bore responsibility not just for what happened on camera, but for what happened behind it too. Then, there were the cases themselves. One dispute became infamous online, known simply as the herpes case. Judy awarded $5,000 to a woman who claimed her ex-boyfriend had knowingly infected her. The ruling was swift and final, except there was a problem. The man later presented medical evidence proving he didn't have herpes at all. The ruling was wrong, publicly, humiliatingly wrong. Critics pounced. They argued this wasn't an isolated mistake, but proof of a larger pattern. Judy made snap judgments based on emotion and performance rather than evidence. For a show that claimed to deliver real justice, it was a damning revelation, and it raised an uncomfortable question. How many other rulings had been just as careless? Over the years, more viewers started noticing things they hadn't before. Litigants who struggled to express themselves, those who spoke broken English, people without formal education, were often cut off mid-sentence, mocked or dismissed. What once seemed like tough love now looked like cruelty. Social media lit up with accusations of classism. People pointed out that Judy seemed particularly harsh toward poor defendants, those on government assistance, anyone she deemed irresponsible. The woman who claimed to stand for justice was being accused of punching down, of humiliating the vulnerable for entertainment. And in an era where conversations about inequality and systemic bias were impossible to ignore, Judy's style started to feel outdated, even offensive. But perhaps the most personal controversy involved someone who had been there from the very beginning. Petrie Hawkins Bird, known simply as Bird, had been Judy's bailiff for over 20 years. He was the calm to her storm, the steady voice that kept the courtroom in order. Fans loved him. He was part of the magic. So when Judy launched Judy Justice in 2021 and Bird wasn't there, people were furious. He later revealed that he'd never even been consulted about the new show. He wasn't asked to audition. He wasn't given a heads up. He found out the same way everyone else did, by seeing someone else in his spot. Bird admitted he felt confused and dismayed, though he publicly wished Judy well. Judy's explanation: the show needed a younger face to appeal to a new generation. She brought in her granddaughter, Sarah Rose, as a law clerk instead, a move that only fueled accusations of nepotism. To longtime fans, it felt like a betrayal. The woman who preached loyalty had tossed aside someone who'd been loyal to her for decades. Then there was the messy split with CBS. In 2021, after 25 years, the network made a business decision that Judy took personally. Instead of continuing with fresh episodes, CBS paid $99 million for the rights to air reruns. They also sidelined Hot Bench, another courtroom show Judy had created. To Judy, it wasn't just business, it was disrespect. She publicly called them out, saying they'd gambled wrong and disrespected her creation. And if that wasn't enough, there were the lawsuits. Rebel Entertainment Partners, the company that had originally helped launch Judge Judy, sued CBS and Judy over profit sharing. They claimed they'd been cut out of their fair share, especially after spin-offs like Hot Bench were launched in secret. The legal battles dragged on for years, and while Judy ultimately wasn't found liable, the accusations left a stain. Even tabloids went after her. The National Enquirer published false stories, claiming she had Alzheimer's disease and had cheated on her husband. They later apologized, but the damage lingered. For someone who'd spent decades controlling her image, these controversies were devastating. The untouchable judge was suddenly very touchable, and the public was watching every crack form. But even as the controversies piled up, Judy kept working. She launched new projects, stayed in the public eye, and refused to fade away. The question was, did anyone still care? When Judge Judy ended in 2021, it wasn't just the end of a show, it was the end of an era. For 25 years, Judy had been a fixture of daytime television, a constant presence in millions of homes. But instead of retiring, she made a bold move. She launched Judy Justice on Amazon Freevee, marking her first step into the streaming world. The show had all the familiar elements: real cases, sharp rulings, and Judy's signature glare. But something was different. The platform was smaller, the audience was narrower, and without the massive reach of broadcast television, the cultural impact just wasn't the same. Judy Justice pulled respectable numbers for a streaming show and even won her another Daytime Emmy, making her the only TV judge to win for 2 separate programs. But the spark was gone. Part of it was the missing pieces. Without Bird, without the familiar CBS set, it didn't feel like the Judge Judy people remembered. Sarah Rose tried her best, but she couldn't replicate the chemistry fans had loved for decades. Younger audiences didn't connect with her the way older generations had with Bird, and longtime viewers felt alienated by the changes. In 2025, Judy launched another project, Justice on Trial, a docuseries on Prime Video. This time, she wasn't presiding over small claims disputes. She was re-examining historic legal cases, from the Menendez brothers to the Scopes monkey trial. The format blended dramatized reenactments with legal analysis, a departure from everything she'd done before. Judy appeared in period-appropriate robes, playing a lower court judge in scripted scenes, while members of her tribunal justice team served as an appeals panel. It was ambitious, thoughtful, and aimed at making viewers think critically about the justice system. But it also flew under the radar. There were no billboards, no viral clips, no cultural conversations. The show quietly dropped on Prime Video, watched by a fraction of the audience that once tuned in daily. The truth is, Judy's reach has shrunk dramatically. At her peak, she spoke to tens of millions of people every week. Now, she's lucky to hit a few million on streaming platforms. Younger generations don't know her name unless their parents mention it. To them, she's a meme, not a trailblazer. Even her public appearances have become rare. She still shows up occasionally, looking sharp and put together at 82. Samuel L. Jackson introduced her at a recent event, and observers noted she still had that commanding presence. But those moments are few and far between. She's not chasing the spotlight anymore, and the spotlight isn't chasing her. The harsh reality is that Judy's era has passed. She's still working, still producing, still trying to prove she's relevant. But the world has moved on. Television has changed. Audiences have changed. And at 82, even Judy Sheindlin can't stop time. Which brings us to the most painful truth of all, what her life actually looks like now, behind all those closed doors. At 82 years old, Judith Sheindlin has everything she once fought for: a net worth estimated at $440 million, multiple luxury homes, a legacy cemented in television history, awards, accolades, and a level of fame most people never touch. But here's what money can't buy: the time she lost, the relationships she neglected, and the quiet moments she can never get back. She lives primarily in Florida now with Jerry, who remains her steadfast companion after all these years. Their home is peaceful, private, everything you'd expect for someone of her stature. But those close to her describe a different reality. Behind the scenes, Judy deals with persistent fatigue. She requires regular medical checkups to monitor her health, a reminder that the mini-stroke she suffered over a decade ago was just the beginning of her body demanding she slow down. Still, she refuses to stop working. Even now, she's reviewing case files, filming episodes of Judy Justice, and staying involved in production decisions. It's as if she's afraid that the moment she stops, everything she built will disappear. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe work is all she has left. Her 5 children, Jamie, Adam, Gregory, Jonathan, and Nicole, are all grown now. They have their own careers, their own families, their own lives that don't revolve around her. Family gatherings are rare. Holidays feel emptier. The woman who once commanded a courtroom with absolute authority now sits in mansions where the silence is deafening. She tries to fill the void with philanthropy. She's donated money to educational programs, provided scholarships for students who need a fighting chance, the same chance she once fought for. She said she wants young people to have opportunities she had to claw her way toward. It's meaningful work, but it doesn't erase the absence her own children felt growing up. Sarah Rose, her granddaughter and current law clerk on Judy Justice, once revealed something telling. She said that despite Judy's tough exterior, there's a deep sadness underneath, a regret that only those closest to her can see. Judy blames herself for prioritizing work over family, for missing moments she can never reclaim. Even her relationship with Jerry, strong as it is, can't fill every gap. He's older now too, spending much of his time away from the spotlight, content to live quietly while Judy continues her relentless pace. They're together, but in many ways, they're also alone in their separate worlds. At 82, Judy Sheindlin is a living paradox. She proved that a woman could dominate a male-driven industry. She shattered barriers, built wealth beyond imagination, and became a symbol of no-nonsense justice. But she also proved something else, that success, measured only in money and fame, leaves you with mansions full of memories you never made and relationships you can't rebuild.